What about us? What about us? What about
us?
I care about this election because of my daughter.
What I care about most in the future election is the future of my loved ones in the community.
What about communities like mine, and what about me?
I care about this election because the day Roe was overturned, I lost rights to my own body.
I care about this election because I think so much is at stake.
Sometimes the problems do seem big, and then I look towards my kids for inspiration. I see how they can rise to a challenge and know that we can too.
Right, we are really at kind of a crossroads in which direction we want our country to take.
I care about this election because I want to save the democracy.
I care about having a constitution that is supported and applies to everyone.
What about us?
What about veterans?
What about our families?
What about small business owners and farmers and their employees?
What about our communities? What about our families? What about our children?
What about our future kids, our community, our friends, and our family?
What about me and my grandchildren?
What about us?
What's in it for us?
What about our children?
What about us?
What about unions? What about us? What about us?
As a father to 2 young daughters, I want them to grow up in a world where they feel respected and protected.
I'm a 4th-year medical student studying to be an emergency room doctor. There's only one team on this ticket fighting for my reproductive rights, and that's Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
I have a 2-year-old and one on the way. Our futures are at stake.
My family is my priority. My family's well-being is my utmost concern.
I would want no one, no American, nor my 5-year-old grandson to have to live under a dictatorship that was run by Trump.
What about us? What about us?
What about us?
What about me? And what about my fellow veterans?
What about my daughter? What about all of the children with disabilities in this country?
What about us who are fathers and grandfathers?
What about women?
Who's thinking about us? What about us?
What about this country? What's best for this country?
What about us?
I want to know, what about us?
I will be voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the upcoming presidential election.
It starts with the character of the candidate, and I know that they are out there for us.
Because I don't think there's ever been a bigger contrast between the two options that are available to us.
I care deeply about this election because the idea of Trump in the White House again is terrifying.
He spreads hate and lies.
Trump is not fit to be our president.
I trust Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because each one of them has a clear record that I can go to and see.
I know that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz care about us because they talk about us. Because they're real people who are living lives similar to all of us. They have struggled, they have fought for the people in their communities for their entire careers. Both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz care about us, my family, my daughter, because they have a plan.
I think Kamala Harris and Tim Walz care about families and they care about us.
I want a president that brings out the better nature in ourselves and not the worst.
A concept of a plan? No. More broken promises? No. We need the Harris-Walz team to continue to solve the problems of this broken system.
We need a president that asks, what about us?
Enough about what Mr. Trump wants. What about us?
I know it's Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
What about us? What about us? What about